Alrighty, here, I'd like to call our meeting to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is our annual informational meeting. I will do a quick roll call for attendance. Ms. Arp.
Here.
Mr. Byer. I heard from Mr. Byer. Ms. Ensley. Ms. Conley. Ms. Howland. Ms. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Vriesinga.
Here.
Mr. Wilks.
Here.
And Mr. Ringler is present. Is 5 is a quorum. We're good, yeah? Ms. Howland.
We've got her.
Okay, 6. I think that's definitely quorum. Public comments. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes to address their concerns. This is the only time during the DDA meeting that citizens are allowed to address this board. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to our informational presentation. Mr. Womack.
Yes, thank you. So, each year, state law that was passed, I believe, last year, or maybe 2020, we are required to kind of explain what we do. So I've been trying to choose topics that were included in both our development plan and our TIP plan to kind of just go over briefly, take questions from anybody. I think the most important thing, I try to say this every time, is the TIP financing that this board relies upon does not increase tax rates. That's something that seems to be a common misunderstanding. The way the TIP districts work is that they skim off a portion of the taxes that were already being paid, redirects it to this board, so that this board can use that money for improvement in town. That being said, I'd like to briefly discuss today the development plan, subpart 8, commercial business and building development and redevelopment. This is one of the things that this board has promised that they will do with the money that they bring in through the TIP district. Read there. This component consists of a program to enhance the appearance of the downtown district by encouraging building restoration, revitalizes front and rear facades, establishes rear entrances to buildings in the downtown district. The program will encourage coordination of color and facade design, encourage some recognition of historical building characteristics, et cetera, et cetera. Do this all, of course, in the development plan. So that is one of the things that this board has promised to do with the money that brings in. And so additionally, I added 2 other things. Back in 2019, I put together a Downtown Development Authority Facade Improvement Grant application, which we've never adopted, but that work has been done. I believe that the subpart 8, which I just read you, would authorize this board to grant facade improvement grant monies that could be used by any business in the downtown for the improvement of their facades, probably also their signage. So I would encourage you to look at that put together. We can discuss if we want to do that in the future as this board's funding improves, and whether they think that the businesses in the downtown will take advantage of that, whether we do the downtown district's advantage to development for that purpose. Finally, I also put in there, I think it's the East Lansing facade improvement program, which kind of shows you how they do things, what they include, and how much money they're talking about, for guidance about whether you think this might be something that would benefit the city. That being said, that's information about your development plans and your TIP district. Questions that you would public might have.
On the facade improvement application, I'm looking through the one that was created in 19. Is there, I assume there's got to be a max or a limit on what,
Yep. So on the
other than 50%.
On the first page, I believe you see that there's some X's that are in yellow. I think that's the part where we never actually discussed
Okay.
how much we would talk about.
What page is that at?
17. I know I thumbed through this when we sent the packet over, but I see Lansing had theirs was a max of 1,000, I believe.
I mean, that would be an appropriate amount. Of course,
Well, depending on the project, yeah. Signs and awnings were up to 1,000, maintenance was up to 2,500, transformational restoration is up to 10,000. That's Lansing, not ours, or East Lansing, I should say.
Well, all in all, downtown's looking a lot better. All the way around.
I think one of the biggest problems of businesses in the and this is just my opinion, the biggest problems is signage. I think there are a number of businesses whose signage is just very old. They have not updated it. Or they've tried to reuse the old, kind of signage and just changed out what do we call it, the skin on the inside. I'd love to see some of those signs updated, be made new, whatever, and not just reskinned. I'd love to see
Repainted.
Sorry?
Or repainted.
Or repainted or whatever the issue might be. I just think signage would drastically improve the downtown. Or UV damage to certain lights or certain signage.
Fixed it. Any other questions on this? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the informational meeting and move on to our regular meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Informational meeting is adjourned. And then I would like to call our regular DDA meeting to order. If we could stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And as this is our reorganizational meeting, I would ask the clerk to take nominations for the office of chairperson.
Before we do that, I'm going to issue some oaths of office that have expired. So I have Sally and Todd. So if you would both please raise your right hand. We'll do them both at the same time. Yep. I, Todd Riesinga, and I, Sally Howland, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and the City Charter and Code of Ordinances of the City of Cedar Springs, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Downtown Development Authority member to the best of my abilities.
I will.
You were going to sing.
I don't have those skills.
I've heard Todd sing. I don't want to hear that again.
I mean, Todd, she was up here with the microphone. Need a pen?
Yeah,
Thank you.
All of our lovely paperwork at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
All right, so now I'll open the floor for nominations for chairperson. Are there any nominations?
I would like to make a motion to nominate Mr. Ringler.
Mr. Ringler, do you accept?
I will.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote for Mr. Ringler for chairperson. Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Mr. Riesinga,
Yes.
Mr. Wilks,
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
and Mr. Ringler.
Yes.
Congratulations.
We,
If you would, please raise your right hand. I, David Ringler, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the City Charter and Code of Ordinances of the City of Cedar Springs, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Downtown Development Authority Chairperson to the best of my abilities.
I will. Last time I said that, it was a lifelong sentence.
We love you, Dave.
It's on that top line. Perfect. Thank you. I will turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and I would entertain a nomination for the office of Vice Chairperson. I would nominate Mr. Vriesinga.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Hearing none and seeing none, then I will take a roll call vote for that office. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Ringler votes yes, Mr. Friesinger,
Yes.
and Mr. Wilks.
Yes.
I would
If you would
Entertainer
please raise your
to
right
end, too.
hand one more time for me. I, Todd Friesinger, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the city charter and code of ordinances of the city of Cedar Springs, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Downtown Development Authority Vice Chairperson to the best of my abilities.
Yes, I will.
Mr. Chair, I must have missed it during roll call, but as you're aware, Ms. Conley is a teacher and she's in school. Not sure if that's the stated reason why she's not going to be here today, but that's my understanding. And also Ms. Ensley, I believe she's having some kind of surgery today.
She just sent me a text and said that you had been informed to that fact. So yes,
Apologize for that.
we will go through our roll call vote then for a quorum. Ms. Arp.
Here.
Mr. Byer. I have texted him and he has not responded, so that would be, I believe, unexcused. Ms. Ensley is excused. Ms. Conley is excused. Do we happen to know if the mayor is going to appoint anyone if she's unable to attend the meetings regularly?
So the current understanding I have is that the easiest solution would be to appoint Ms. Powell to be the representative since she already attends. But Ms. Powell currently serves as the resident at large for the district. So we would have to find a citizen who lives in the district to replace Ms. Powell if that were the case.
That may be something to discuss before, prior to the next meeting. We can certainly seek out a citizen for the changing of the guard if need be, so. Ms. Howland,
Here. Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Ringler is present, Mr. Friesinger, and Mr. Wilks.
Here.
In alphabetical order. Well done. Public comments. Those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes to address their concerns. This is the only time during the meeting that citizens will be allowed to address the DDA. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like.
May I address as a member of the Garden Club?
You may.
Thank you. As you all know, the Cedar Springs Garden Club, Rose Powell, Cedar Springs City Council too. We create this beautiful community garden and we're very proud of it. And I'm just wanting to give you a heads up that we are going to ask the DDA to help us create around the big pine tree. We need to have a cement area. They put in some kind of stone stuff and it just doesn't work. So, and we haven't been able to have any meetings because of COVID, y'all know that. So I told them that I would introduce DDA to this situation. And when we get a meeting going, we can find out about costs and bids, so on and so forth. But I have to tell you that garden is absolutely wonderful. For when we're there, people stop and, oh, I love your garden. This is so beautiful. And you hear people say, I come to Cedar Springs, but I go by that garden, even though I don't have to go that way. And it's just absolute joy to work on that garden and talk to people. We, of course, try to recruit gardeners and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm sure you all enjoy that garden too. So that's just something to think about, for food for thought for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens wishing to speak? Hearing none and seeing none, we'll move on to any conflicts of interest and ex parte communication. Is there anything we should be aware of? Thank you. Move on to approval of agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda?
I understand that Ms. Powell was considering adding something to the agenda.
Should I add it now or?
Yeah.
Okay.
17 North Main, I believe was the property.
Yeah, just for discussion to talk about DDA developing the garden, not the garden, the picnic area where the drain went across the street and the city accepted that property. I'd really like to see it first class. So I guess that's a discussion we should have about spending DDA money downtown where the citizens will see it and understand what the DDA does for our city. So I don't know how to add that to the discussion other than,
We'll add it as item F, pocket park discussion for 17 North Main.
excellent.
Anything else? Entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the addition.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Agenda carries. Consent agenda, which would include the minutes of the October 15th and December 15th meetings that are in your packet, and to accept and file the financial report also contained in your packet. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. We will move on to unfinished business. The 71 North Main mural modification. And Ms. Ensley is not present. Do we have any information on that?
Apart from the fact that Ms. Ensley indicated she would like to see that changed, and I did kind of walk her through what would be required. Mostly the contract that was signed requires that or gives ownership of that mural to the DDA, I think for the first 5 years. And then it reverts back to the building owner. So, I don't have a dog in the fight. If the DDA wants to allow that mural to be changed, then I guess they have the authority to vote on that. But obviously we'd want to see what they're proposing to change it to.
So that would likely have to be tabled then until we can't obviously approve anything if we don't have any information on it. So. We would move on to then new business. We have the 2021 minute index, which is beginning on page 37 of your packet. Madam Clerk, were you looking just for approval of this, or we're just reviewing and discussing?
It's more for your information. It's the report that's also provided to the city council as your annual report of the things that you guys have done. It also kind of indicates what you're still working on. So it's more of an informational and that, so it will be passed along to the city council as well, same as the attendance report. So no approval necessary, but great reports for if you ever need to go back and find something. When did we approve of something? It's a great report for that.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on the index? All right, and then directly following page 42, we have our attendance report. I believe we had a policy a couple of years ago of 2 or more unexcused. Was that, am I remembering that correctly?
You do, I just don't remember the exact words of the policy.
Okay. I mean, no one has more than 2, so. But just to obviously keep in mind, we're more effective when we're working together, so. And I don't remember if it was more than 2, then we could possibly ask for a replacement.
I think it was referral to the city council. Yeah.
Okay. So that is on page 42. We then move on to a discussion of downtown snow removal. I believe this was a request of Ms. Powell as well.
Are we going to renew that with O'Dowd's
Well, I think the contract's through the winter.
this winter too? Okay.
This was the first time they've done it.
Did they do it last year too?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I noticed there was some areas that were missed. And I was wondering what the heck was going on, but this year they're doing a great job.
If you, I mean, don't bug them, but I mean, if there's something that is just regularly missed, I mean, let Jean Ann know in the office. I mean, she's super nice and I'm sure they'll make sure it's there. But I mean, the contract is 17 to 18 miles, as I recall. So they make the swipe when appropriate. I think it's 2 inches or more.
They're doing good.
And one of the things that I liked about Ms. Paul bringing this up is, it used to be that I had enough time to actually walk up and down the street and see things, but haven't recently. City council keeps me awfully busy. So I know Miss Powell does walk up and down the streets pretty regularly, and of course, you guys all have businesses, I believe, that, up front on Main Street. So yeah, if you see that they're not being done, either let me know or let O'Dowd's know. We have a contract with them and they should be fulfilling it.
The only comment I would have on it is I think they should do 2 passes because they're just driving,
1.5 inch.
they're doing a loop. And they're doing one width. And that one width is not even half the width of the entire sidewalk,
That's what we contract with them for, though.
just for one width. Okay.
Yeah, it's just as a review, it's unlimited pushes and it is $250 per push over 1.5 inches. Salting is separate for $300 per ton to be spread. So that's the deal that we had. And certainly if we want to review that next year, we could.
This year we've been lucky because we've had relatively light snowfall, but it would be nicer to be wider than 30. I think it's 32 or 33 inches wide.
52. It's wide enough that like I can.
No, the sidewalk's 52, but I think the pass is only 30.
They're only doing 32 to 34 inches in front of my place.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a skinny little area we shovel out.
Yeah,
to
just
it.
one swipe. I mean, we clean off the rest of ours, but it is,
Yeah,
they
they're-
go one swipe.
They're only
so.
doing one
I
swipe.
thought the
It's-
contract said 52 inches.
It's not even half of the
It says a
sidewalk.
54 according to the 54-inch pass.
Yeah,
Oh, it
so
is? Okay.
They're not doing
Yeah,
that.
right there.
They're only doing like 36. My snow blower is wider than what they do, so I send my guy out to do it. But they're not really doing a great job of making it wide. No, not a big deal this year, but if we get real snow, it's gonna be trouble.
And so I guess that's the question then,
Mhm.
is, my understanding was that partially you guys wanted to have the sidewalks done earlier in the day because the DPW, they primarily do the roads. They do the sidewalks when they have the opportunity. The trade-off, of course, is, these guys, at least under the contract we have, are not cleaning out the rest of the area in front of your businesses.
Oh, right.
It is the 32, 54, whatever inch pass. And then the expectation was that you, with a shovel, would clean out. the rest.
Absolutely. It's just the width of it is so narrow that it's just kind of weird.
Well, I mean, it really ought not to be. If it's saying 54 inches in the thing, it should be 50.
Yeah, I'll check the next time. At
Next
least in
time
front of
I'll
us
lay
to
a
see what
tape
it is.
measure down and shoot a picture of it.
Yeah.
and,
Usually done before they even
They're-
pull out, so. I open so
They-
early. that-
Again, my experience with them is they're super nice. So I mean, if we talk to them, I don't think it's going to be an issue, but. And if we do have any amendments we want to make to the contract, we can certainly do that before next year.
Can I ask you a question on the salting? Only because everybody pulls in front of my place to exit out the other, which crosses the city sidewalk, which makes it absolutely impossible to keep it shoveled because it freezes right there in those spots because everybody drives through it. Is there any possibility that, because those are the 2 spots where everything ices up and I can't move it.
Yeah, I don't know
I
what.
don't think they've done any salting. It's salting is by request. If we ask them to do it, it's $300 per rock. done.
I salt
So-
myself because we
Yeah,
have. so
well,
much-
I mean, I have my whole parking lot, which I wind up salting,
Right.
but then on top of that is the city sidewalk plus what goes out in the street, and it's like,
You have snow removal on your parking lot?
yes.
I mean, I know ours too hasn't gotten fully cleaned out either. I was just messaging the guy this morning with being warm to come and salt it and try to get the
Yeah.
ice out of there, so.
Just thought I'd ask about that because like I said, those are the 2 spots that it become just
Yeah.
ugly.
Yeah, it's a by request, the thing, so I don't think we've ever requested it and they've done it this year.
Okay.
Ice storm this year either.
Okay. Any other discussion on the snow removal? Okay. We will move on then. We are looking for a motion to approve the purchase of the new downtown signage for a price not to exceed $1,285.70. And if we look once again in the aforementioned packet, we will find the quotation beginning on page 44 and the images on page 46 for the sign committee had recommended wayfaring signs.
Move to accept. I am a member of the sign committee. I don't know if that means anything, but one of the ones that approved these signs already, so I'm double approving these signs.
Second that.
Any other discussion on the signs?
I have just something to mention. I noticed we had 2 signs for the Skinner Park. The other one I drove by probably 100 times, but I've never seen it because it wasn't important to me. So I don't know, it's one of them green signs. We had 2 for
Where's it
Wriggle Park.
located at?
It's right in front of, well, I want to say the old Keeler Brass Building, the big factory. I know you don't get it.
Next to the Smith
It's
place.
the Northern Lights Building now. I meant to take a picture of it.
I'll go drive around today, take a look. I'll tell you what, Ms. Powell. So part of the 5-year rec plan was that we have to have these signs that say, you know, money was donated by the DNR. And if we didn't have it, we had to order the sign and install it. And I said, wow, we got that grant in 2009 for the staging area and we never put a sign up.
Right.
So I dutifully went and ordered that sign, $275.
Mhm.
I drove up there and I see the sign bright as day right there under the, I think it's a snowmobile rules sign.
Nice.
I've been in that park 10,000 times. I never noticed it. So yeah, this is an ongoing thing and we've been doing this for what, 3 years now?
Yep, sign blind.
Eventually, we will get rid of all the green signs. But I will take a look by the Keeler Brass Building and try to find that sign.
Or even if where the other one was, if it was 2-sided, it would be more noticeable if you put a
Which other sign?
sign on, the one that is on Church and 5th. Park sign, Wriggle Park sign.
Say Wriggle Park?
No, it's just one of them green signs with the picnic table on it. I did take a picture of that one.
Recently?
No, when we were
We
doing all
pulled a few of
this.
those down.
Could be gone now, but it was there when we were doing this project.
I'll take a look there as well.
Personally, I'm really excited. I think this is gonna, just consistent signage that looks alike. These are clean and bright. I think it's gonna look great and gives us some synergy and consistency in our town of Cedar Springs, and it's identifiable. So
Absolutely.
I was in another community recently that has clearly not done this type of thing. And their signage looked like it was straight out of the 70s. It was tiny and like black on dark
Right.
green.
looks old and dated.
It
Yeah.
looks very bad. So this
Okay.
looks
Is there any other discussion on the signage?
Will we discuss what we're going to put in front of City Hall at any time soon? Or should we just wait or?
I don't think that's part of this particular one, but we certainly can.
Okay. Well, there's one of those old green signs out there and I don't know if we came to any conclusions about what to do that.
I think the discussion was originally with the sheriff's department moving out of City Hall.
Mhm,
We might want to replace the big red one that says City Hall and Police.
mhm,
And then incorporate the full change to
mhm.
take both that sign and the green sign out at the same time.
Okay, I knew we discussed it, but, okay.
Thank you. As this is a financial vote, I will take a roll call. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
Ms. Powell,
Yes,
Mr. Ringler votes yes, Mr. Friesenga,
Yes.
and Mr. Wilks.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Motion carries. We will move on then to a discussion of the 2022 Summer Concert Series. So we have a couple of different proposed timeframes. 10 or 12 concerts.
And of course, you guys can do whatever you want, but I was just putting together some information there. If we do 10 concerts and we start at June 8th, I believe summer for the kiddos starts June 3rd. So one Wednesday later, run 10 concerts, you're going through August 10th. I remember last year we had some discussion about, wouldn't it be nice if this went all the way through summer? And so I think the 24th equals 12 concerts. And I think the kids are back in school sometime in the first week or so of September. So I guess, what are you looking for? I mean,
I think it's great to do the whole summer. One concern I would had, we had a canceled concert this year that was not communicated very well at all. And it ended up being probably our least well-attended concert with the reschedule because it was kind of seat of the pants. And that's something, if we're gonna fill up all the dates, we may not have a rain out date. So we may want to be, whether we want to create a policy or a standard for what is going to be a rain out. We don't want to screw the musical acts, so they're going to have whatever those terms are in their agreement as well.
So something we could do, because you're right, I was going to address that, is, have a to be determined or to be announced at the very back end. And either slot in any kind of rain performance, or, weeks ahead of time, if even possible, just call somebody up and say, hey, are you available? I don't know how far advanced all these guys are going to be booked.
To make sure I'm hearing you correctly, you're talking about having 10 slots, but booking 9 on the off chance one of them gets to move into space 10.
Or
I was thinking
12.
11 is booking 10. but-
Okay, that was what I wanted to clarify. Because either one of those, I would agree with 100%. I think those are great plans either way, but 10 with one extra is not a bad idea.
Yes, Mr. Ringler, in your experience, how easy would it be to get a band, to?
In my experience, that would probably be tougher. And I think this past year in working with everyone together, I thought we had a lot of really good acts, and most of these do book up even in a COVID year. I think if we do something last minute, maybe that might be something more local or a kids thing as our backup, but I think it's going to be hard to get somebody to sit around and wait, maybe.
What about maybe 12 slots, 10 bands, have 2 as rain backup dates? And if we don't have any rain backups, then maybe movie in the park. We do have a giant movie screen that we could run. I haven't quite figured out how to, get the licensing necessary for that, or,
It opens up another Pandora's box.
projector, but that would be a way to fill the time.
We can also just schedule our 12 and, we have a reduced fee negotiated with bands that if your date is rained out, you get X amount of dollars anyway, and we just cancel it. I mean, if it's concerts in the park, I tend to think from the marketing side and from the community side, people expect concerts in the park, so.
Concerts and movies in the park.
Yeah, I thought with the movie, as long as you're not charging.
And if it's public,
Must be public
viewing,
domain.
yeah. Yeah, we looked into that a couple of years ago, and if it's public viewing, it's the same as music. If it's playing in public, even some towns have music up and down the street, and if they decide they want to come after you, they can, and it's public, so.
I wonder if the school band, even if it was like the high school band or something, would come in and play a concert. That'd be a good draw and fun. We had the ability to contact them.
Well, that's what I kind of suggested earlier, if we had something that was more community as a last wrap up, as a
Yeah.
backup, and if we had a rain date, they get bumped, but we want to do that to the kids either, so.
Yeah, I know they have a jazz band.
The problem is that it's summer, they're not in school, so.
True, but sometimes they're practicing and they're still marching. A lot of them are.
Yeah.
By the end of the
Do
summer,
camps
they've
during
already
the
got
summer
band
and stuff.
camp up, and in my experience with, most bands, by August, they're concentrating on the band season.
Yeah,
And the last thing they want to do is come out and do a show in the park on a Wednesday. I could be wrong. That was, 20 years ago?
yeah,
Yeah.
all
In
right.
the 90s, everything was a lot harder to do crap back then. But I could be wrong, but you have to talk to somebody actually in the school's band, which I have no context with.
Yeah, and being it's last minute, we don't know who's available and who's not.
I do have some staff members that play in the marching band, so I could ask them, when do you start practicing? If you guys ready for something like that at the end of summer.
The other thing is we can just live with it. If we get bumped, we have one that goes later, and it's just probably not going to be as well attended, but.
Well, or like you said, set up 12, and if it gets rained out, here's your $100 or whatever, and sorry, better luck next time.
And that would be in their contract, right? That's what you were saying?
Well, that's what say, if we were gonna go that route, we would have to put it in the agreement.
Right.
Which obviously I owe you an updated agreement to review anyway, but
Well, we have to have provisions in there too about what rain out actually means. We did have one competition, played for, I think, 40 minutes, and then there was an hour rain delay, and then they played another 40 minutes.
Ended up being kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a fun concert, but, you know,
Right.
so I guess still working on it. And of course, we'll
Like I
probably,
said, I think the big question for today is, do we want to do a full 12 or fewer? And
The simplest solution, I think, would be to have just the single contract that's written up that all 12 acts agree to. And if they get rained out, they get rained out, and everybody has a nice day, and we move on to next summer.
Mhm.
That way, there's no rescheduling conflicts or anything. If it gets rained out, it's rained out, and we're done. And
most bands, though, to hold the date are going to want,
Oh,
I
yeah.
understand, and
Want some money, yeah.
And so I don't know, it's a simpler solution. But we're also asking them that if they get rained out, they gotta come back 6 weeks later. And I mean, you know, that's more your world than mine, Dave. You tell me how that would work out.
Sounds reasonable, you know.
well, yeah, the rescheduling can be hard too, because sometimes they
Right.
don't have those other
Right.
dates available.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Ringler, do you know what it would cost for a rain out payoff, I guess? You show up, it's raining, you're not playing today.
Well, it's again negotiable, and we have a staff member that does most of that. So but it's usually a reduced fee that can be anywhere between 30 and 75% of the fee. So call it half. In my experience,
And, you know, this is,
but it depends, you know, we have a stronger relationship with some of the groups that were booked than others that were totally new. So, you know, it really is going to depend on what they're agreeable to.
it's a bit of a gamble. It's part of doing business.
Mhm.
I do like the idea of knowing that there's gonna be a band there for like 12 weeks straight,
Me
you
too.
know, so having 12 weeks booked out would just be.
Was it good for you? Did you guys get some
Yeah, a little bit.
spillover from that?
Yeah, I think it, you know, being
Did
the
You
first
you guys
year.
didn't do the social though, did you?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
You
they did.
Okay, good.
So, We didn't have a ton of people take us up on it. I think a little bit longer walk to the park.
Right,
But I think if we do that little pocket park across the street and be able to include that.
right.
And I think we're gonna make it
Just-
all the time now.
Mhm.
At least that's what my
Okay.
hope is, to convince councils, if we have this picnicking area, that will allow it, you know, from noon until 10 o'clock every day of the week or something. We really didn't have any problems,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Would we also have the flexibility for any other events that the Heart is included, or were you thinking of that still being Wednesday only?
I think that would have to be approved of through, I mean, they'd obviously have to be approved of through a community event application.
Right,
Um,
but the way it was only for those. We didn't have the flexibility before,
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, that's something that would be discussed by the council. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be cool. We'd like,
I think the
That'd be nice
bigger
to see.
problem, yeah, the bigger problem would be what happens when you have Praise in the Park, and now you've got people who are like, well, I'm gonna go get drunk at Praise in the Park. And Praise in the Park might not want that.
well, but if they have to put in an application, then,
Well, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, if we have a social district and say the Heart of Cedar Springs is open at all times, free drinking, you know, now, despite what Praise in the Park might want, people are gonna go down there and drink.
Yeah, can Praise in the Park dictate, can we give Praise in the Park the right to say, we don't want alcohol in our part of it? I mean,
Probably I'd have to look at what the rules say.
you know, see a reason why that wouldn't be an option is if they don't want that, and if the rest of the downtown's cool with it, you know, let them have it. They just can't come into the park when Praise in the Park is the option you're using, and they're there.
Yeah, we'd probably have to modify the, I mean, we're going to modify it
I
and
understand, it's getting modified regardless.
so permitted except for, you know, when they don't want it, something like
If
that.
if the producer who's running something in that location that day doesn't want it, then or I'm fine with them with saying, yeah, be my guest. Tell people they can't drink during your event. Doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I could probably do that.
And then Morley
I
Park
don't-
is always an option if they want it alcohol-free.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I hope you're not encouraging people to walk to Morley Park with a beer.
No. That would be a good area for alcohol-free activity.
Funding, we have we have, as you see noted, some funding secured. We were under budget last year, which was good.
Yep, so I believe this board has dedicated 1,000 in its budget for these concerts. I believe the city has budgeted 3,000. And I believe the fund balance from last year was about 4,000.
And I believe
So-
we also have a donation from,
So I believe that there is another donation coming in that Mr. Ringler's worked on. I appreciate that. So, but I think with the fund balance from last year, we're probably fully funded for whatever we wanted.
I would be bullish for the 12. I think it's a really cool thing this summer. I think it's an attraction. I think we're bringing people from outside of the community that are going to restaurants. And I think it's a nice piggyback with the car show at the Legion as well. So
Plus, I think you're gonna see in a second year, like we did at the end of last year, lots of people started coming towards the end of last year.
Mhm.
Even my little business saw a bump, even the bakery saw a bump, both physically and with the stuff that I brought over and put on a table. I never didn't sell out at the table. My table was always empty at the end of the day. Doesn't matter what event it was.
that was a good looking salesperson.
Should we,
Some ugly guy selling that stuff. I don't know who he is.
I meant when your wife was over there.
should we put that on the agenda next month for a vote or
What?
for the 12?
This
Or
is
should
just
we vote
discussion,
tonight?
yeah.
We can move it to a,
Well,
Oh.
so really what's happening right now is I'm working with Mr. Ringler and his staff to
Mhm.
start contacting some of these bands, but I wanted to talk to you guys first to make sure I wasn't thinking completely wrong-headed about all this stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't even know if I really need anything from the DDA.
okay.
You guys are signed on as a party that donates money.
Mhm.
But largely, this is a staff thing that the staff puts together. Along with so the social district does have to be approved of by the city council,
Mhm.
but like children's activities, business promotion, again, that's mostly just been handled by staff.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on having 10 or 12. Well,
Really, this is something as business owners
Okay.
and as, people who are most interested in this, I'm looking for advice. And Ms. Powell, since you were at, I believe, every concert or all but one concert.
yes. Well, I was at them all. I left when the lightning came on that one. Just a very fun and joyful activity.
Oh, yeah, having a hamburger and a drink in hand and listening to music.
Watching the kids run out, they're just like little gazelles running around. It's just great.
So could I talk about that, Mr. Ringler, for a second? Yes. So social district, I'll be putting together hopefully a modification, bringing that to the city council, but I thought the children's activities worked out amazingly last year. Now we pretty much outsourced that. Anybody who had an activity they want to put together, City Impact did a great job. They did a lot of it. What did we call that? Donuts in the park or the Busy Mom's Bakery put together
Oh, the cakewalk thing?
cakewalk.
Yeah.
Thank you. The kids really loved that. Of course, who doesn't like free donuts, right?
They
Um,
ate the crap out of those Rice Krispie treats. I needed to make like 3 times the amount of those I made.
Yeah. So I guess any thoughts about how we can encourage or do more children's activities? I know the library wants to do some as well.
I think it's great as long as, right now it's not broke and, we're getting community involvement, which is wonderful.
If Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts wanted to put on one, or Girl Scouts, that would also be a pretty decent draw. Kind of a weird area, but as an Army veteran, I would not be against bringing the recruiters in and let all of the 5 branches sit there and do a thing one day. I think that might be a cool idea, because they bring all sorts of neat stuff with them.
Well, so then that kind of gets into the third one, which is chamber and DDA business promotion. The policy that I put together last year, because this is, for the benefit of the chamber and the DDA, is we basically allow any business in the chamber or DDA to set up a booth and talk about themselves and hi, come visit me. Basically, the only rule was we didn't want you selling anything. Food, we allowed to be sold because people, it's better than bringing in food trucks and people want food. But, trying to sell whatever, going into the Army, going into, I'm not sure that's really selling, but trinkets and whatever stuff. I just didn't feel that was appropriate. So based on the policy that we have put together from last year, do you guys think it worked out okay? Do you think the businesses and DDAs appreciated that, and you think they're willing to do that again in the future.
I did, and I
I'll be there.
hope that even more would get involved, so.
Do we have
Later
a rule about who can come in and sell stuff? Obviously, Tom is in the DDA. Are you in the chamber too?
Yes.
I think the way the policy would read would be any business that's in the chamber or in the DDA and sells food or drink that does not require or has a Kent County food peddling license or whatever.
Uh-huh.
The way it's written up in here is that as long as it's, basically, if you could sell it at a farmer's market, you could sell it at this thing. That's how I interpreted it, and that's how it looks to me.
And be members of the DDA or the chamber. It's not everybody in Kent County can come in and set up a booth.
Correct. That's the way that it's currently written.
Excellent.
Great. Any other discussion? Would move on to discussion item F, the Pocket Park development at 17 North Main.
So I was planning on bringing this back probably the next meeting or the meeting after that, just been very busy here at City Hall. So we'd already talked briefly about the purchase of a couple tables. And then at this morning's staff meeting, we discussed, apparently people are driving through that lot, thinking it's part of the alleyway businesses, which just blew my mind. So we're probably planning on putting some kind of fencing back there to prevent people from doing that, and also just to prevent people from walking back through there. One thing I'd love to see would be those string lights that go overhead, but to do that, we have to get electricity set up there, which will cost some money. And I understand that there is water there currently, so we could put flower boxes or something else. But Ms. Powell, was there anything specific that you wanted to discuss?
Well, my hope is that we would, instead of calling it a pocket park, to actually name it the DDA Park or Cedar Springs DDA Park, and to develop it in a first-class way, as we worked on the heart of Cedar Springs. Get some really good looking stuff in there, very durable, make it ADA approved. And I don't know how we would design it, but I have a few things in my head. But to show people what this DDA does and how they spend their money, and this, I think, would be a prime example to show off
I thought we just
what
named
we
it
do.
Rose.
Okay.
Roses
Rose
Park.
Park.
Yeah, well,
The naming of a park would be accomplished by the city council, not the DDA.
yeah, but it's just a suggestion.
No, I would echo that. And I mean, I hope we don't put chain link or something, have something that looks nice if we're looking at dividers or fencing, but.
Also, part of the problem is, as much as we'd like to do everything first class, things cost money.
Right?
I believe Mr. Wilkes contacted a friend who looked at artificial grass, which
The
I
artificial
personally,
turf over that whole period was a little over 30K. and
Right.
it was last summer,
Mhm.
and prices have fluctuated a lot since then. The number one thing that he said that could control prices would be if he provided the product and the DDA chamber city provided, for lack of a better term, the hands, the manpower. Yeah, you could really bring the cost down if we did it as like a service hour thing with the NHS at the high school, Boy Scout troops, whatever. People that had service hours they needed to do, they could get 8 or 10 service hours if they came in on a Saturday and helped us install all that grass. But then it would also fall on then the city to put together volunteers from DPW and whatnot to dig up the existing location and level it out so that it's prepared and ready for that day. And he said that you could really save us a lot of money with that, but even then, we're still looking at least 5 figures
Just for the grass.
just for that false turf. Yes, ma'am.
So, okay,
So
but we could,
there's
there's
wa-
other options.
There's water there, so why don't we put underground sprinkling in? There's water and electric, and then
Cost
just have,
roughly the same, yeah.
have DPW cut it every now and then.
well, and so I mean, there's costs, right?
There is, but the only thing that I would worry about the artificial turf, and I've been taking my dog to this thing called the pack, and all these dogs that defecate on it, it really doesn't go anywhere,
Hmm.
and people don't always pick up.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, from what I understand with artificial turf is once it's picked up, you can hose it kind of into the, ground underneath. But
Your kid can roll around on it. That's great.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't really absorb.
I sure wouldn't want to roll around in, the patios of some places in town either.
Right.
But, it's also, if we have picnic tables out there and it's real grass, now those picnic tables have to be moved when the DPW cuts the grass.
Have you ever been to, Saugatuck has a rose garden park where people, every year they kind of add a piece of sculpture to it, metal sculpture, and it's got all these different varieties of roses through the whole thing, and it's just a neat little walkthrough, and people always go through it as they're wandering through town. They get kind of sucked into it and they check out all the flowers and what.
Saugatuck's taxable value is significantly larger. They have the money for that type of thing. Now I keep referring to, I think it's outside coffee or outdoor coffee in Easttown.
Yeah.
Lots of plants and hammocks and tables and whatever else. It's very organic. I think it looks great. And I would like to see us get there at some point. But things like ADA compatibility requires asphalt paths.
Yes.
Asphalt paths are $10,000.
And then you don't have to move the picnic tables around, which
You
beats
can't
them up.
crushed stone, that white, the really hard white crushed stone that absorbs water.
I don't know for ADA.
That's what they use for like the trail at Pickerel Lake for,
ADA.
yeah, for all the wheelchair accessible trails.
As long as it's packed, it is ADA.
Mhm.
Compatible, but you're not gonna be able to do things. You can't like put like a picnic table on top of that without scrapping it up and ripping it out. So that
Right.
it no longer be compatible. It has to be inside of a defined space as wide or wider than a wheelchair. So you're looking at 36, 40 inches worth of path.
Well, at least.
And that is then contained for what you're talking about, Todd, has to be contained and then compacted. So you've got the hard stone with the sand, with fine, don't ask me why I know all this, with fine dirt as well. And then that all gets laid down and compacted down so you can easily roll over it.
Mhm.
Something for a space that small, something like that, to make it ADA compatible, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it would be practical. A practical solution would be simply regular grass or something as simple as a defined path, asphalt or otherwise, with something as simple as wood chips on either side, that's where the things like picnic tables can rest in. That way, it's the simplest solution, costs you the least, gets done the fastest. We could actually have that done in time for this summer, assuming we get the funds from the city or from ourselves. And that would be a relatively quick fix that doesn't involve too much long-term management.
Mhm.
And then we could have all that in place, ready to go in time for the concerts this summer.
You can upgrade over the years.
Yeah, we could always pull those things back out, pull those wood chips out, and then put dirt with grass in it.
I did see picnic tables that are on a pedestal in the cement. They're not cheap, but they don't have to be moved around and beat up, because that's what tears up the picnic tables, is coming in DDA, shoving them around. And they are ADA models if you need them, and just a path to them. We don't have to do the whole darn park in that, but if there was a wheelchair path where they could get to the table, so they could still mow the grass without beating up on the picnic tables. It's just something I was looking at in a catalog, how that was set up. There's only room for what, 3, maybe.
It may be worth checking around a little bit too on just even the artificial thing. If that was an idea that we liked, there may be others.
There might be others, yeah.
We did put that white stone in the garden, the community garden, and it just goes away and it gets full of weeds. So, that's something to think about. It just hasn't worked out.
Any other discussion on the pocket park?
Just to mention one thing, and that is we could hire somebody to design it for us, which obviously would have some upfront costs, but might make it look better and give us a more realistic expectation of what it's going to cost. Give them a mandate of, we want it to be shabby chic, we want it to be cheap, but look okay. So I'll just throw that out there. That's a possibility to hire.
That everybody wants to.
Instead of us trying to figure it out.
We have an existing relationship that's working on the heart, right?
We do. We could approach them and ask them what it would cost.
Maybe get an estimate from them as a starting point.
Oh, that would be great.
Let's,
And there is one thing, I'd like to add an item G if possible. I'd like to quickly just briefly discuss the mural placement between my building and Cronkite's building. And then,
this is out of order, sir.
well, I'd like to make a motion to put that on there.
I'll second.
So, well, technically we can't, but at this point, but
Well, yeah, I
we're
forgot.
informal enough. I mean, if you want to go ahead and bring up the thought quick.
Yeah, so basically there's steel pipe there. There's a good structure that I can easily build something to. We're looking at using hardy plank, 4 foot by 8 foot, 9 foot, or 10 foot. I think the higher we go, the better. And we're gonna need to talk to artists. Laura has some ideas on that. and We can discuss this on the next EDA meeting. But code enforcement has sent me an email saying that Cronkite would entertain it. I just need to get written permission from him. We can build the wall, get it prepped, and then we can have an artist come in, but it'll be brand new hardy plank board. We can have it all primed, blank canvas, and then we just need to approve art to put some sort of Instagrammable mural up there.
Two things. First, you'll need dispensation from the zoning administrator as well, because anything over a 6 foot is not a legal fence. The second thing would be, is it possible to set it back 4 or 5 feet off of the sidewalk and install maybe a bench in front of it?
That's what I would like to do, but we have to get Mr. Cronkite's permission because he owns all that property.
Maybe put together the plan on paper and then get him to agree to it.
But it could also be, he had a 10 foot wall there that blew over in the last windstorm. It could also be considered a repair.
Don't think so. It would be non-conforming either way, and you cannot repair a non-conforming fence. But I know the zoning administrator on a personal level. I think you might be willing to agree to something.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We move on then quickly to any correspondence, which would include our 2022 calendar. I think everyone can find that on page 60 of your packet. Do we need an approval for this? We can certainly make note of that for our own calendars. And is there any other correspondence?
I did add the 2017 TIF plan and development plan to your agenda, even though it is available on the city's website, just so you have copies of it. And then you can go home and read it every night.
Okay, and then we move on to the city manager DDA director's report, which would include that plan. Thank you so much. Trustee comments, then we can start at the far end. If Ms. Howland has anything she would like to add.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday season.
Thank you. T-Money?
No comments, thank you.
I'm looking forward to building a wall.
And you're not in Berlin. Ms. Powell?
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad you're here and stay healthy. I just got over through the Omicron and got through it. It was kind of rough for a couple of days and glad to have survived and glad to see everybody else. If you get it, it's not that bad. It wasn't for me, but I had shots, so who knows?
Ms. Arp?
Just thanks everyone for being here. I'm looking forward to a good 2022.
My main comment earlier was going to be, I'm excited about having these signs and continuing to beautify our downtown, but thank you all. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Job.
You.
So what do you want me to do? Make a drawing, get a drawing put together and submit it to zoning?
Yeah, I mean, I